Happy pie to everyone. My favorite type of pie is pumpkin. Now, I know I may have offended a lot of the nerds in this group because most nerds' favorite pie is 3.14, 15926, blah, blah, blah. But let's just stick with 3.14. Episode 14, Daily Nourishment. Today's topic is one that I personally wish there was resources about when I was still cooking. The topic for today is going to be how can you get better at cooking without actually cooking? Now, I don't think cooking is something that someone is born with a divine ability to do. I believe cooking is something that is practiced. The best way to practice is to actually do the thing. If you want to get better at doing push ups, do some push ups. If you want to get better at playing the guitar, play the guitar. If you want to get better at writing, grab a notebook, grab a computer, grab even a tissue paper and write. But with cooking, it's different because you don't always have the luxury of being able to cook. Let's say you are traveling, or you are on the subway, or you are doing a multitude of things. Cooking is not one of these hobbies and one of these skills that you can refine at every moment. So I've come up with a couple of different ideas on how you can improve your cooking, even when you don't have access to a kitchen. So this first one here is going to be eating. The best way to expand what you think is possible is to already have seen what is possible. By eating, you are expanding your ideas of what can be done and what other people have done successfully. Now, more than just eating, you have to be doing what I call observative eating. When you're listening to something, you need to be actively listening to get the information. That's why people who listen to audiobooks don't exactly retain as much stuff. Because when you're reading a book, you have to be actively reading. You can't just stick your eyes to one word, you won't continue reading. However, with listening, you have to do nothing. You can literally fall asleep and it'll continue to play along the entire book. So when you're eating, don't just put the food in your mouth. Think about how the flavors are working together. Think about how the textures fit together. Were you able to put everything adequately on your fork? Or maybe you weren't, and maybe that was by design. How did you personally like how the flavors were together? And I think the biggest thing you can do here is think about if you were the one cooking the dish, what things would you have done differently to make it better? Don't just say, I didn't like that. Make sure you're working on your own description of why you don't like things, and more importantly, on how you would make them better. Now, another thing you can do is what I like to call external creativity. And this is what I call consuming other types of media, and you're going to apply what you find in these medias to food. So you're going to look for other medias for inspiration. This is a little bit of a daunting task, especially to younger chefs who like to find a piece of media they really love and try and translate that. The problem with doing something that you really love is you have a really clear picture of what it is. But again, transferring skills from your head to the plate is a skill that needs to be worked on. I think the best way to get started is to look at some paintings because you can very literally translate it by using a lot of the colors and some of the imagery that's used. A personal favorite of mine is looking at some of Monet's paintings where there's a lot of loose brush strokes and there's a lot of texture in the paintings. These are things that I think can be easily translated into food rather than trying to translate something like a Rene Magritte, one where there's a lot of interpretation, a lot of symbolism. Symbolism is really hard to do, especially with a carrot. Telling a carrot, no, you're not a carrot. You are an idea of a career. Man, that's tough. Another thing you can do is try doing reading about food, old or new. Whether that means reading new trendy articles from publishers like Eater or the New York Times or any other publication that publishes stuff about food, or whether that's reading classic books like Julia Child's recipe books or Anthony Bourdain's books or any of the other great chefs that have passed on and have written great books. These let you expand your idea of what you know about food, similar to eating, but these also give you different perspectives. Because that's the thing, when you eat a plate of food, you are only getting your perspective. And if you are dining with others, then you're getting one other person's perspective. But by reading, you're getting someone's perspective and the perspectives that have influenced them to come up with their perspectives. So it's kind of like a layered perspective. It's kind of cheating a little bit, but it kind of lets you expand your knowledge of food a lot faster than if you weren't doing that. The last tip isn't the same as the other ones. The last tip is one that you won't be able to apply as easily. The last one is doing these things with purpose. When you have a purpose when you're doing all these actions, when you're cooking, when you're eating, when you're reading, when you're actively researching, when you're actively observing, if you have some purpose behind it, if you can remember, why am I doing this? What's the greater picture? It means that you have that motivation to do it, even when you find that things are really not fun to do. When you have a reason for doing it, it means that your actions are a lot more decisive. And this is one of the only ones that translates to actual cooking as well. I often find when people talk about cooking with love, I think it's a little overrated, honestly. I think cooking with purpose is something that can drive you because love is a fleeting emotion, but purpose can always be there. Those are some tips on how you can improve at cooking without actually cooking. Seems counterintuitive, but I hope you're able to take something away from this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you tomorrow.